Humans are not free. Knowledge of various ethics, morals, norms, customs, stereotypes, etc., takes root in our hearts. In nature, no one lives as unnaturally as we humans do. Humans desperately want freedom, but in reality, they are binding themselves without even realizing it. So, let's take this opportunity to explore how we humans bind ourselves and how we can free ourselves from such restraints. Here, I plan to deal mainly with oppression. Oppression breeds hatred and disease. There was an executive of a large company. He was a person who could not tolerate other people's mistakes. He frequently scolded his subordinates and even his children, calling them pathetic bastards. One time, on his way home on Chuseok Korean Thanksgiving Day, the highway was so crowded that he was moving at a tortoise pace, and several cars were speeding along the shoulder of the road. It was as if he was saying, "Guys, envy me, don't you?" He got so angry that he blocked them with his car and prevented them from moving. Then, rugged-looking young men approached him as if they were going to harm him and demanded that he move out of the way. So he had no choice but to do so. But other people must have been equally angry. So why did only he act like that? In fact, he really wanted to go to the shoulder of the road. But he was suppressing himself, reminding himself, "You have to follow the traffic rules. Do you want to pay a fine?" That suppressed feeling was reflected in such actions. She was a very moral woman who was deeply loyal to her religion. She had an aversion to sex that bordered on schizophrenia. Her belief that sex is immoral was deeply ingrained in her mind. However, she took great pride in living a holy life while remaining single. That's who she was, but she was also human. And there were times in her life when she suddenly had a strong sexual desire. Every time that happened, she would feel great guilt and strongly suppress her desire. By blaming others for watching porn, she suppressed her desire to watch it. But that didn't mean her sexual desires disappeared from her mind. On the contrary, the more she did it, the more her sexual desire grew in her heart. When others do something sexually related to her, the I ego in her mind criticizes the behavior severely, cleverly disguising her thoughts and actions. By doing so, she was able to remain a religious and moral woman. But she could never be free from sex. Among adults, especially teachers and clergy, they often suppress their feelings due to professional dignity. She should be able to express her feelings through words or actions depending on the situation. But she fails to do so and instead suppresses them. As these emotions accumulate, his mind and attitude become increasingly rigid, and his feelings for the other person make his interpersonal relationship with the other person difficult and even hate him. If it gets worse, it can develop into a physical illness. The same principle applies to marital relationships. When a problem arises between a couple, for example, if they don't like something said or done, they should resolve it through conversation, seek understanding, and move forward. However, they just end up holding it in. In that case, the emotion lies dormant in the unconscious and explodes at a certain critical moment, destroying everything. Eventually, they end up divorced or separated. Why do these things happen? Let's analyze it. Suppressed desires seek an opportunity for revenge in some way. When oppression occurs, the oppressed object goes deep into the unconscious and takes root. It waits for an opportunity to pop out at any time. It never goes away. It's just hiding. Suppressed desire seeks an opportunity for revenge in some way. It will definitely take revenge. It may explode at any moment and ruin everything, or it may subtly harass the opponent. If it cannot erupt somehow, it destroys itself. The function of the I ego is destroyed. so that the oppression carried out by the I ego can no longer proceed. That is psychosis. The greatest purpose of life is self-preservation. It's an instinct. The law of conservation of energy is the instinct of this universe. Therefore, when the oppression or stress caused by the desire of the I ego reaches its extreme, life energy destroys the I ego to protect itself. In that case, the oppression or stress will no longer progress. This is because oppression or stress occurs due to the I ego. In the case of her who suppressed her sexual desires while growing up, she was unconsciously influenced by religion, ethics, and morality. The stereotype that sex is immoral became a part of her ego. This ego has always been tormenting her life, which is her essence. In the case of a large company executive, the desire to get home quickly and the frustration of that. The knowledge that only buses and vans can travel in the busy lane system, and yet cars, like his, are boldly taking that route, and he himself does not have the courage to do so, etc. These various thought processes of the I ego caused anger, and led to such sudden actions. As a result, his essence, life, was hurt. In the case of the teachers and clergy mentioned above, the stereotypes they have about their profession, such as a sacred profession, are deeply ingrained in their I ego, leading them to suppress their emotions to protect themselves and avoid getting hurt. As a result, their essence, life, suffers. The same goes for marital relationships. The desire of the I ego for a spouse to speak like this and act like this was suppressed for reasons such as saving face. It becomes stressful and eats away and destroys their essence, life, love. To be free from oppression, understand as it is. So how can we be free from this oppression? Contemplation, understanding, and patience, this is the way. Contemplation is understanding an object as it is by looking at it from an objective standpoint, away from the I ego. If your spouse says or does something, it is a very natural thing that comes from that person's personality. It is something that cannot be easily changed by others. You can't expect different behavior from an ant than from an ant, and you can't expect different behavior from a pig than from a pig. Since each person has their own shape or frame, one cannot expect words or actions beyond that individual's shape or frame. If you can fix it by talking, there is nothing better. But if you can't, you have no choice but to break off the relationship with the other person, or make an effort to comprehend the other person. This is the way for us to become free from stress caused by the other person. So what would you do when the object is in your mind? It's the same too. As you contemplate the thoughts that arise in your mind, understand that the thoughts are not your original essence, but rather the I ego that has been accumulated from the outside as you grow, and accept them as they are. Never put up with or suppress them. If you put up with or suppress them, they become stress and harass your essence, life. However, if you understand them, they no longer become stress or hide in your unconsciousness. You're free from the object. Whatever actions are caused by the I ego leave stress to myself and others. But if our life, love, becomes the subject and understands external objects or the desires of the I ego in our own hearts, they no longer become stress. Life, our essence, is love, and love is understanding. So it accepts and harmonizes everything. Understanding and accepting things as they are, without judgment of good or evil, that is love.